She just wanted to get home. A quiet flight, a window seat, a few hours of peace. But when a young black girl sat in first class that day, the stares started. Whispers spread. And before the plane even left the ground, her simple seat became a spotlight, one that revealed something far uglier than turbulence. No one knew that one of the men watching was the airline's undercover owner. What he saw that day would change everything and expose a truth the world wasn't ready to face. Her name was Ava, just 15 years old, a quiet honor student who loved books more than people. She was flying alone for the first time, heading home after visiting her aunt. To her, first class wasn't about luxury. It was just the seat her aunt surprised her with, a little gift to make her feel special. She clutched her boarding pass like it was a ticket to confidence, her heart racing with nervous excitement. The terminal buzzed with chatter and rolling suitcases, but Ava's world was calm. She texted her aunt a shy smile emoji and whispered a silent thank you. She didn't notice the glances yet, the double takes, the furrowed brows from passengers who didn't expect someone like her up there. When she stepped onto the plane, she was met with polite smiles that didn't quite reach the eyes. The air felt colder in first class. She placed her small backpack beneath the seat, hands trembling just slightly, trying to blend in. She didn't know that every move she made was being watched, not by one person, but by many. Among them sat a man in a simple jacket, reading glasses perched low on his nose. No one knew he was the owner of the entire airline, and as he watched the scene unfold, something inside him stirred. Because what was about to happen on that flight would test more than corporate policy. It would test humanity itself. At first, everything seemed normal. The flight attendant smiled, passengers settled, and the hum of engines filled the cabin. Ava opened her book, trying to lose herself in the pages. But then she felt it. That heavy silence, the kind that isn't loud, but felt. It started small, a glance from the man across the aisle, then a whisper from the couple behind her. A subtle shift in energy, the kind that makes you question if you even belong where you're sitting. When the flight attendant approached, Ava looked up with a polite smile, but the woman's eyes flicked from Ava's face to her ticket, then to the seat number. Her voice was soft, but cold enough to sting. "Sweetheart, are you sure you're in the right seat?" Ava froze. The question wasn't cruel in tone, but it carried the weight of disbelief. Passengers turned their heads slightly, pretending not to stare, but listening all the same. Ava nodded quickly, fumbling for her ticket. "Yes, ma'am. It says 2 amperes. Her voice trembled. The flight attendant took the paper, studied it too long, then forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I see. Well, enjoy your flight." But the damage was done. The murmurs spread like wildfire. A man 2 rows up muttered, "Probably an upgrade mistake." A woman whispered, "Must be some kind of charity thing." Every word pierced like glass. Ava turned to the window, eyes burning. She could feel the invisible wall closing in. Every time she reached for her drink, every time she adjusted her seatbelt, it felt like proof that she didn't belong. And in the 3rd row, the man in the simple jacket, the airline owner, watched silently. He saw the looks, the tone, the discomfort disguised as politeness, but he said nothing. Not yet. He wanted to see how far it would go. When the drinks came around again, another attendant hesitated before handing Ava her glass. "That's for first class, miss." Ava's voice broke. "I am in first class." This time, the laughter wasn't hidden. It was small, quiet, but sharp enough to make her flinch. The attendant quickly corrected herself, apologizing, but the apology meant nothing. The tears came, quiet and uncontrollable. She turned her face toward the window, hoping the clouds would hide her shame. And that's when he stood up. The man with the jacket, The one no one recognized. His expression unreadable. His steps measured. Every eye followed him as he walked toward Ava's seat. The cabin fell silent again. The kind of silence that comes before something changes, something big. No one knew who he was. No one knew what he was about to do. But when he stopped beside Ava, the tension in that plane reached its breaking point. The man stopped beside Ava's seat, and for a moment, no one breathed. The air was thick with judgment, guilt, and curiosity. Every passenger leaned in slightly, waiting, assuming he was about to correct her, maybe even ask her to move. But instead, he bent down slowly and picked up the crumpled napkin that had fallen near her feet. His voice was calm, but carried the kind of authority that silences a room. "Miss," he said softly, "is everything all right?" Ava looked up through tear-filled eyes, startled that anyone had asked that question with kindness. She tried to nod, but her trembling lips gave her away. He straightened, turning his gaze toward the crew. His expression hardened. "Would someone like to explain?" he said, his tone still low but sharp. "Why a young passenger in first class is being treated as if she doesn't belong here?" The attendants froze. The murmurs stopped. The color drained from faces that, moments ago, were painted with smug certainty. One of the attendants stammered something about a misunderstanding, but he didn't let her finish. "I've been sitting here watching," he continued, "watching how silence becomes complicity, how glances become judgment, how decency becomes conditional." His eyes swept across the cabin, meeting every stare that had lingered too long on Ava. "You all saw it, and you said nothing." The truth in his voice struck harder than anger ever could. A few passengers looked down, ashamed. The man who had mocked her earlier shifted uncomfortably, avoiding eye contact. Then came the shock. The man reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a sleek black card. "I own this airline," he said quietly. "And what I've seen today is not just unprofessional, it's unacceptable." A wave of disbelief rippled through the cabin. The attendants stood frozen, mouths parted, eyes wide. Ava's tears fell silently, not from humiliation now, but from something else. For the first time that day, she felt seen. And as the plane cruised through clouds above the earth, every person on board knew nothing about this flight would ever be the same again. When the plane landed, no one rushed to stand. No one reached for their bags. The silence that once felt judgmental now carried something else. Shame, awareness, maybe even a hint of change. The owner quietly helped Ava to her feet, offering her a reassuring nod. He didn't make a scene, didn't demand an apology in front of cameras. He simply said, "You deserve to be here. Never let anyone make you think otherwise." Those words stayed with her long after the flight ended. The moment that began in humiliation ended in strength. Ava walked through the terminal with her head held higher than before, not because everything was suddenly better, but because she had seen what courage looks like in a world that often chooses silence. In the days that followed, the story spread. Passengers shared what they witnessed. The airline issued an apology, not the rehearsed, corporate kind, but one written by the man himself. Training was changed. Policies were rewritten. But more importantly, hearts were confronted. People who had once believed racism was a relic of the past began to see that it still lives quietly in glances, in assumptions, in moments that go unchecked. Ava never wanted to be a symbol. She just wanted to fly home. But sometimes, it's the smallest stories that expose the biggest truths. Because racism doesn't always shout at whispers. It hides behind politeness. It lives in the comfort of those who choose not to see. And maybe that's the question we all have to ask ourselves now. When we see it happen right in front of us, quiet but cruel, will we look away? Or will we finally speak up?